Sam is with us in New Jersey. Hi, Sam. How are you?
Hi, Dave. How are you?
Better than I deserve. What's up?
So I run an air conditioning heating company out here in New Jersey with my family. We did about 2.8 million last year. This year we'll hit about 6 million. We're at 4.5 so far for the year.
Way to go!
Thank you. We've grown the business substantially over the last couple of years. I actually just graduated college in May, so I've taken more of a hands-on approach this year, and we're really trying to grow.
Cool. What's your degree in?
Finance and supply chain.
Oh, good for you. Excellent.
Yeah, from Rutgers. Yeah. So we're about 30 employees now. We're about half that last year, and we're looking. My goal is to really grow this company and hopefully plan for an exit in about 5 years. And our goal is to obviously grow as fast as we can without taking on any massive debts. And we've done pretty well so far, at least in my opinion. We do utilize debt, so that's really the point of question here in my call today is to see if you would think that we're in a risky position with the way that we leveraged our debt. So the only debt we've used in our growth is really for trucks, and we use vendor debt. But our vendor debt pretty much goes against our accounts receivables. And the truck payments, we wouldn't be able to grow as fast if we had to buy all our trucks for cash. We would just, we would limit our growth very, very rapidly, very, very drastically. And so, for instance, if we want to hit about 15 million next year, which is our goal, we would have to buy about 20 more trucks, which is double the fleet we have now.
You said 4 million this year?
We're going to do 6 million this year.
6 million this year. And you're going to almost triple it next year.
Yeah, we grew about 2.5 times. We'll grow about 2.5 times this year. 6 million is more on the conservative side.
When you say vendor debt, do you mean 30-day payables?
Yes. Yep.
Okay, so that's not. You're not carrying debt with debt payments. You're just vendors bill you and you pay them.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
Yeah, that's.
But we do utilize.
That's just standard business practice.
Okay.
That's like paying your electric bill. It's
Yeah.
not debt. It's just I bought something. They sent me a bill. We paid the bill. We've got, I just wrote a check for hundreds of thousands of dollars to Google for dadgum AdWords. Okay.
Yeah.
But and I didn't prepay for those. They just, we used it. They sent us a bill. We paid the bill. So that's just ongoing payables. Now, if you're carrying something over 30 days or you're setting it up on a payment plan, now that's debt.
So some of our debt with our main vendor is Ferguson. We buy all our equipment there. It's the largest supplier, and so we have about a $500,000 credit line with them. Some jobs we do a lot of larger projects. Some projects, if we're not getting paid for 90 days, 120 days on there, then they extend those same terms to us.
I got you.
So so I don't know if that quantifies as debt. Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
And so,
we do
how many to go into the other question then? How much truck debt are we talking about on the vehicles?
I would say about 400,000, 450,000. Half of
net
our fleet
profit
we own.
on the 6 million was what?
It's about 20%. About $1.2 million.
Okay. All right. Well, I mean, you learned this in college, and you're just out of college, so you should still remember it. That debt does equal risk. Did you do like a standard business case class, probably senior year, where you had to analyze the stock price on something and you look at one company that carries a lot of debt and another company that doesn't, and you devalue their stock because of risk?
I did.
Okay. That's a pretty standard thing in senior year in finance class, okay? Has been for 30 years. Or 40 years, I guess it was ago I did it, but but that's that's kind of common sense in a way. But actually, when we're taught the way you're taught academically and the way I was taught academically, that when we're placing a value on a publicly traded company's stock, we reduce the value of the company if they're carrying too much debt, because more debt equals more risk, and that stock is it's going to be more volatile because that company's taking more risk than a than a company that has no debt and has virtually no risk of that type anyway. They have other risks, but not that type of risk. So more leverage equals more risk. More leverage equals more upside. And Sam, as we all heard in our very first finance class, leverage is a two-edged sword. It cuts both ways. It'll cut you down. It'll take you out at the knees, and it can build you up. And when you're looking at it the way you're looking at, you know, we have a tendency, when we're small business people, we're optimists, and you've done really well to grow the business, so why wouldn't it go on to $15 million if I just went into debt and bought some trucks? We never think about, oh, well, you know, we could have COVID, or we could have some outside variable come along and challenge this idea, and then once your profits drop, you know, if your profits dropped a ways, you know, this debt would cause you to get in the red faster than if you didn't take out the debt. So that's the consideration, to answer your question. And the same thing's true when you take out a large job. And I grew up in the construction business, and so I've watched heat and air guys go broke my whole life as subcontractors. When the contractor goes broke, contractor gets too leveraged out there, gets too stretched, and they look up and decide not to pay the vendor on time, and then Ferguson comes knocking on your door.
Yeah.
And that's
that's one of my other concerns is because like our accounts receivables is about $1 million now.
Yep.
And it's one of the scary, and a lot of that money is guaranteed because it's coming from the state. It's through state sponsored programs that we work with.
It's also guaranteed to possibly be delayed by some idiot bureaucrat.
Yes. That definitely does get delayed. So we you know, thankfully we've been, you know, me and my dad worked side by side for most years until we decided to grow it a couple years ago. And so we did have, you know, we had a good amount of reserves, but we thought we're good enough reserves about, you know, we have about like $500,600,000 in accounts. But when our run rate is, you know, we did about $1 million in July, it feels like we don't have enough cash at all.
Yeah. So the problem is this, okay? That you've increased your probability of complete atomic failure, meltdown, as you increase the Ferguson line of credit and as you increase your vehicle debt. Every time you add $1 to that, you've increased your risk of meltdown. Because if a perfect storm hits and a bureaucrat kicks you and 3 vendors out there don't pay timely on the Ferguson stuff, and some of your other consumer stuff slows down, you get about 3 of these elements at one time coming at you, you've messed up your margins with these debt payments. And that's the risk. That's the mathematical result of risk. And to the point you want to choke that down to make this thing hockey stick the way you're talking about, that's completely up to you. I have chosen to grow slower and have very little stress. I would rather have a pile of cash, no debt, and my risk level is way down, and I want to be the tortoise rather than the hare. But I'm not trying to take something up 3x in 1 year or 2 years either. Now, I might take something, one of our divisions or departments or product lines up 3x, but we're running about $300 million. I'm not trying to get to $1 billion in 1 year. And if the only way I could get to $1 billion in 1 year was to borrow money, I wouldn't do it. I would just go, I would take a few more years. I got some time. It's okay. You have time. You're just getting started, man. You have time. And, if you're planning an exit, a real clean balance sheet makes an exit easier. A cloudy balance sheet with a bunch of lines of credit and vehicle debt, it makes the whole process a little harder on the exit. Because they're going to see that as risk too, the buyer. And they're going to say, I got to come in and clean that up to get my margins up and to lower my risk. And that's what a buyer is probably going to look at, especially if they're a well-funded buyer and they're not living on the edge. But you guys do whatever you want to do. You ask me, I don't borrow money. And so I would have cash reserves to cover my Ferguson line so that I was not bleeding past 30 days. And I would buy a few less trucks, and I would grow from 6 to 12 million instead of 6 to 15. And then the next year, I would have even more cash flow because I don't have payments. And and then I could grow again. And I just pay for it because I got money. And I sleep really good. Thanks for calling, Sam. Sounds like a cool thing you're doing. I'm proud of you.